We've touched on some positional battles aside from quarterback that could be very interesting as the Crimson Tide prepares for fall practice. We did this prior to taking our first break here, but upon our return to end my own words, I get back into a conversation that I've had all offseason, all summer, in terms of looking at the top 5 at each position at Alabama under Nick Saban. Hopefully, I look to be finished with this before Alabama takes on Louisville in Orlando, Florida, Saturday, September 1st, but top 5 at each position under Nick Saban. Before we dive into that, though, some news and notes around college football. First and foremost, the Amway Coaches Poll was released today. Preseason top 25 coaches poll, according to USA Today Sports. And to the surprise of nobody, Nick Saban, University of Alabama, preseason #1 team in the country. Alabama looking for national championship number 18 in program history. And for Coach Saban, trying to tie legendary head coach Paul W. Bear Bryant in national championships at Alabama. Coach Bear won all 6 of his with the Tide. Nick Saban, 6 overall, 5 with Alabama, but looking for that next one to equalize the Bear with the Tide and also have 7 overall. Also, congratulations to Nick Saban is in order for signing his extension. That extension going to 2025. He will pocket $8.3 million with that extension is concerned. It's an 8-year, $74 million deal as it's charted right now. And this man continues to put pressure on the rest of college football because all these analysts keep saying, well, he's going to retire this year, he's going to retire next year, or there's no way Nick Saban can continue to do this. At some point, you would think they would shut up because every time they keep talking, you add 2 or 3 more years to Nick Saban. He's 66 years old, but he's running around as if he's a 40-year-old man. I keep telling people our history books lied to us in the 5th grade. Ponce de Leon did not find the fountain of youth in Florida. Nick Saban's found that thing at Alabama, so kudos to him on signing that extension. Also, folks, fall camp starts on Friday. Open practice is Saturday, Alabama Fan Day, but the first day of fall camp starts Friday. This is where you see the names that you expect to rise and play during the regular season step up. It's hot in fall camp, it's humid in fall camp, it's almost unbearable in fall camp, but this is the time of the year where you pick up that roster, fans, you circle, and you put a star by the names that you expect to rise, step up, and make plays. The time is here at fall camp. And also, last but not least, trouble in paradise for Ohio State. This is crazy. I'm not going to dive deep into this, but I'm going to say Urban Meyer knew. He knew when all the coaches know about what's been going on with Coach Smith and his wife, Miss Courtney Smith, Coach Zach Smith, the wide receivers coach, when all the coaches on staff know and the wives of those coaches know, and the biggest wife of all, Urban Meyer, your wife, Shelly Meyer, she knows because she's the one getting the majority of the text messages from the domestic situation there. You know exactly what's going on, Urban Meyer. So Ohio State in a complete mess. Former ESPN college football insider Brett McMurphy broke the story. You can check it out. But Ohio State in some absolute peril right now. But that's just some news and notes around college football. Now we dive into top 5 tight ends of the Nick Saban era. We left off on wide receivers recently. The best thing about tight ends is if you look at the National Football League, the best help to a quarterback is a reliable tight end. The New England Patriots, you have Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski. During Peyton Manning's time with the Indianapolis Colts, he had Dallas Clark. During his time with the Denver Broncos, he had Julius Thomas. Before Jimmy Graham went to the Seattle Seahawks, it was Jimmy Graham and Drew Brees for the New Orleans Saints. Before Antonio Gates got up in age, it was Antonio Gates, Phillip Rivers, now it's Phillip Rivers and Hunter Henry. So, and even for the Dallas Cowboys, Tony Romo and Jason Witten. So, the biggest help for a quarterback is a reliable tight end. And you can say the same thing about college football. And in Alabama, Nick Saban has had his hand in molding, preparing, helping, producing some big-time tight ends. Now, the difference between Alabama and a lot of other programs is in the early portion of Nick Saban at Alabama, starting from 2007 to, I guess, you can say 2010, 2011, rounded off about there. The tight end position was primarily a blocking position. I mean, yes, you could slip out, catch a 5-yard pass here, 10 yards pass here. I mean, if you were lucky, you could slip out toward the back of the end zone, catch a touchdown pass there. But primarily, you were a blocking tight end. It's only been the last few seasons where Nick Saban has gone out there and has recruited more athletic, more pass-catching tight ends to help promote a highly explosive passing game. But he has produced some solid guys nonetheless. Now, before we get into our list of top 5, I'm just going to throw out some honorable mentions here. I like these guys. Didn't really get much attention at Alabama, but they were good players. Number 1, gotta go with the guy like Travis Mccall. Travis Mccall, who was a part of that 2008 Alabama team that almost won a national championship. Got so close, finished 12-0 in the regular season. Pretty good blocking tight end, had some solid hands. So Travis Mccall is in there. Gotta go with Preston Dow, who was a part of couple of national championships for Alabama. Preston Dow is in there. Brian Vogler making the honorable mentions list. And Brian Vogler, who was 6'7". There are a lot of Alabama fans to this day that ask me, Steven, why did we not target Brian Vogler more? I mean, the kid was 6'7", big dude. And I don't know why. I mean, once again, early on in Nick Saban's career, if you were a tight end, you were primarily a blocker. You would catch the football here and there, but you were primarily a blocking tight end. So, guys like Brian Vogler, Preston Dow, Travis Mccall, great players, good players, just did not have much of an opportunity to really touch the ball like they wanted to. But starting off my top 5 tight ends list, at number 5, I'm going to go with Colin Peak. Colin Peak, who played at Alabama from 2008 to 2009. The story of Colin Peak, he actually was at Georgia Tech first. Played at Georgia Tech in the ACC from 2005 to 2007. Once the coach left Georgia Tech, name was Shane Gurley. Once Shane Gurley left Georgia Tech, he got fired from Georgia Tech in 2007. And Paul Johnson came in to try to introduce this triple option system. Colin Peak left Georgia Tech to come to Alabama, had to sit out 2008 due to the graduate transfer rule. 2009, the only season in which he was able to play for Alabama, he was pivotal. I mean, the guy had 26 catches, 313 yards, 3 touchdowns. His 313 yards, 4th on the team. His 3 touchdowns, 2 of those 3 came in huge moments. One of those touchdowns in 2009 came against Auburn in the Iron Bowl. Remember, the Tigers took a 14-0 lead, and then Alabama came back with a touchdown from Trent Richardson on the bridge play in the red zone. And then the very next drive for Alabama, Greg McElroy taking the troops downfield, and he hooks up with Colin Peak on a drag crossing route, and Colin Peak maneuvers his way to the painted grass in Jordan-Hare Stadium. Alabama getting the win 26-21, but Colin Peak, huge touchdown there. And in the Southeastern Conference Championship, the rematch against Florida, Colin Peak, a touchdown reception in that game, helping the Tide win 32-13. So number 5, for him to have only played 1 year due to coming over as a graduate transfer from Georgia Tech, Colin Peak, strong 2009 season, he serves as my number 5 guy. At number 4, Nick Walker. Nick Walker, who was a Schuler recruit, came in 2004 as a 4-star. However, he came in as a wide receiver, grew to being a tight end. Played from 2004 to 2008, and that 08 season, keep in mind, Alabama had Julio Jones, dynamic weapon. Marquise Mays, dynamic weapon. Darius Hanks, dynamic weapon. Not to mention you had Glenn Coffey and Mark Ingram, who could both catch the ball out the backfield from John Parker Wilson. But in 08, Nick Walker was the second go-to target for that team. 32 catches, 324 yards, 2 touchdowns. All 3 of those categories fell behind only Julio Jones. So Nick Walker played a pivotal role that 08 season, the year in which Alabama 12-0 regular season, lost to Florida in the SEC title game, and then lost to Utah in the Sugar Bowl. But Nick Walker, number 4 on my list here. Moving on down to number 3, top 5 tight ends of the Nick Saban era, Michael Williams. And first off, before we dive into his numbers, congratulations to him. Just been named the head coach of Pickens County High School, his alma mater. Michael Williams from Reform, Alabama, a guy that was a part of that 2008 signing class, played from 08 to 2012. And the funny thing about him is Michael Williams was a flat-out athlete in high school. I remember my junior year at the University of Alabama vividly. I took a class called Coaching Basketball. I think it was Kinesiology 120, I'm not sure, but the title of the class was called Coaching Basketball. And my professor for that class was Williams's high school coach, basketball and football coach at Pickens County. And the guy would open every day of class just talking about how highly athletic Michael was. Could play center, could play power forward, had a jump shot on him, could rebound, could block shots, just could do a little bit of everything. And then on the football field, could do a little bit of everything. The guy was a bar-none, flat-out athlete. And at Alabama, had a pretty good career. 51 catches, 503 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns. Finest season came in 2012, where he had 24 catches, which was 4th on the team, for 183 yards. He had 4 touchdowns, which tied him for 2nd on the team. His performance in 2012 helped Alabama go back-to-back national titles. After winning one in 2011, came back, won another BCS title in 2012. During that title game against Notre Dame, Michael Williams caught a touchdown pass from A.J. McCarron, but Tide beating the Irish 41-14. So, guy was a flat-up athlete. Didn't have the best career in the National Football League, going from the Detroit Lions, to the New England Patriots, back and forth there. But Michael Williams, now a coach, head coach, Pickens County, going back home to give back to the community. And this just speaks to playing under, working for, being mentored by Nick Saban. Even if your career does not pan out in terms of going to the NFL and putting up big stats and signing big contracts and having big jersey sales and making it to Pro Bowls and winning Super Bowls and going to the Hall of Fame, even if your NFL career doesn't pan out the way you would like it to, because you have worked under Nick Saban, he teaches you life skills. There are many different avenues to take. You can come back and be a part of his coaching staff. You can get advice from him, and he can point you into the direction of going back home and coaching for a high school team back home. He can put you in the working world, whether it's a car dealership or working in real estate. It's just so many different life skills that you learn from Nick Saban, that even when the football career from the National Football League viewpoint doesn't go the way you want it to, it's not the end of the world. And you see this here from Michael Williams. He's right now at Pickens County High School head coach. Congratulations to him. But he's my number 3 tight end on this list. Going on to number 2, we go to Brad Smelly, who played from 2008 to 2011, Brad Smelly, solid career. 47 catches, 461 yards, 4 touchdowns. He was a tight end / H-back. And 2011, the year in which Alabama, first year starting quarterback in A.J. McCarron, redshirt sophomore, went behind the ears, first time taking the reins, and Brad Smelly was the number 2 target on that team. Number 2 leading receiver on that team behind Marquise Mays. Brad Smelly, 2011 season, 34 catches, 356 yards, 4 touchdowns, was just a weapon. I reflect back on what I mentioned earlier. When you've got a reliable tight end, quarterback can play cool, quarterback can play calm, quarterback can play composed, quarterback can play with no fear because he knows, I got this guy. He's going to run precise routes. He's going to catch the football. He's going to be a reliable target. I can trust this guy. Brad Smelly, 2011, year in which the Crimson Tide won a national championship, restoring hope back to the city after a vicious EF4 tornado. Smelly, 34 catches, 356 yards, and 4 touchdowns. That's a big-time factor. And at number 1, pretty much self-explanatory. At number 1, and the reason why I'm putting him at number 1 is he has ushered in the big, physical, athletic, pass-catching, explosive tight end to where you can stretch them out there and just let that guy go to work. When you think on what has come behind O.J. Howard, let's look at what's come behind O.J. Miller Forrestall has come behind O.J. Howard. Miller Forrestall is 6'5", 240 pounds, out of Cartersville, Georgia, came in that 2016 class. That's a rangy athlete right there. Nick Saban came out last year prior to Forrestall getting hurt and talked about how he is O.J. Howard-like. And you saw it in Forrestall's freshman year. 5 catches for 73 yards. Doesn't sound like much, but he had a huge 22-yard reception against LSU, which set up the only touchdown of the game for the Tide. Alabama winning that one 10-0. He also had a huge catch against Arkansas. Got hurt against Colorado State last season. Got the medical red shirt, but 6'5", 240 pounds. Forrestall's athletic. O.J. Howard has brought in Irv Smith Jr., who's 6'4", 241 pounds. Big basketball-type body. Can go up, can snatch the ball out the air. Very athletic. People are looking for a huge season from him. O.J. Howard has opened up the door to guys like Kedrick James and Major Tennyson, Hale Hinches, who's pretty athletic. Behind O.J. Howard has come athletic pass-catching tight ends that can do something in the vertical game. That's why O.J. Howard's number 1 on this list, and behind that, he forces opponents to fear him. You look at, in that 2015-2016 season, everybody was so focused on O.J. Howard early on that Calvin Ridley or Darius Stewart, other guys were able to make plays because you're thinking, I'm not going to let this 6'6", 251-pound transformer beat me. And then the moment where you start keying in on the receivers, now Nick Saban unleashes O.J. Howard, and you're like, man, I totally forgot they had him. They still got this joker. So the fact that he also commands so much attention from defense is key. O.J. Howard, number 1 on this list, 5-star, came in 2013 from Prattville, Alabama, Autauga Academy. Here's a guy for his career, 83 catches, 1,197 yards. For his career, he had 114 catches, 1,726 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And the last 2 seasons of his career, though, we're talking 2015 and 2016, the big years for him, 83 catches combined for 2015 and 2016 for 1,197 yards and 5 touchdowns. Destroyed Clemson. In both title games against Clemson, 9 catches, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns. Had a field day against Clemson, had a field day in the college football playoff You hate that he was not used more, targeted more within the offense due to his size and his ability. But O.J. Howard bringing in the freakish tight end, O.J. Howard bringing in the era of that position where you have to fear that group in terms of Alabama and its ability to spread the football around. Right now, Howard going into his second year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after a pretty good first season, and head coach Dirk Cutter looks to get Howard more involved within the offense. So going back to this again here, top 5 tight ends of the Nick Saban era at Alabama, in my opinion. Number 5, Colin Peake. Number 4, Nick Walker. Number 3, Michael Williams. Number 2, Brad Smelly. And at number 1, we got O.J. Juice Man Howard. Taking another break here on In My Own Words. When I get back, though, ladies and gentlemen, we dive into recapping the open practice. Who stepped up? Who made plays? Who do I think will be the biggest players next season for the Crimson Tide, judging by the open practice? We'll touch on that on the other side of the break. This is In My Own Words, the podcast, Touchdown Alabama Magazine. We'll be right back. It's your boy, Stephen M. Smith, host of In My Own Words, the podcast. If you are a fan of this show, then I encourage you to subscribe to the Touchdown Alabama Magazine YouTube channel. Also follow the brand on Facebook, Twitter, and other forms of social media as we continue to bring you the best in Alabama football and Crimson Tide athletics.